Hello, 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 everyone. Jennifer Bleam, Cybersecurity Sherpa here. I am here with Brian Doty. He is the Channel Development Manager with Unitrends MSP, although he also represents many of the Kaseya products now and services and solutions, which we may chat about just a little bit. But Brian, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Jennifer. It is a pleasure to be here, especially since I just got to read your book not too long ago. I don't want to skip ahead,
Yeah, no,
but
that's great. Yeah, we'll definitely
I've
talk
been
about that.
itching
It's
to
so
talk about
funny.
that.
We all had, we both had it like in the background. So we were like, like, oh, let's get the mandatory screenshot, right?
Right, that's
I
right.
love it. I love it. Okay. So part of what I love, this is just kind of a secret behind the scenes on why Jennifer does these live events with the sponsors of this group. Of course, part of it is that I want to give Brian a chance to talk about the Unitrends MSP platform and the things that are coming soon, and introduce people to the tool if they're not already familiar with it. I feel like many MSPs are already, but what I really like are the conversations in the green room that often bleed out into these live chats. So that's what we were doing backstage, was just chatting, and then all of a sudden, thankfully Brian's here to keep me straight. He's like, Jennifer, we're supposed to go live in 1 minute and we didn't really review our outline yet. I'm like, well, we're going to rearrange our outline because we were talking about some great, I guess we could call them marketing strategies. They're almost more business development concepts.
Yes.
And I think you use the words giving back, like giving back to people. So let's talk about that, because it's not something that's really discussed as a marketing tactic.
Correct.
But there's some magic in what we were just chatting about. So give me some examples and we'll piggyback off each other.
There is. And you can make a mistake with this too, right? About being nice. And you can call it giving back or even giving forward. I kind of like that too, because I've always approached sales as a way to educate people, solve problems. I mean, I really lived this in my whole career. And we were even talking about how that sort of pays dividends over time, even if it's doing something that doesn't necessarily generate revenue or benefit you immediately in a sale or even an opportunity for a sale, but something that helps somebody's day be a bit better or help somebody solve a problem, even though it doesn't circle back to your revenue directly. It's something that it's out there, right? It's a good deed, so to speak, or what have you. So we were talking about being at some of these shows and some of the conversations you have, and like, well, this isn't really a good prospect for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll have the conversation to a fault openly, right? And sometimes I don't have the heart to tell people, all right, move on, right? But I also feel that there's value, there's things that I've learned in being in this industry, being in this business, and the mistakes that I've made, and even some of the successes that I've had. If I can sort of relate my experiences to somebody's problems, even if they're not a prospect, that's great. I want to be able to do that. And that's one of the things I love about this role, is being able to kind of meet with people and not necessarily always have a sales tactic in mind, everybody you're talking to. So I like that approach. And I think, like we talked about, it all comes back to you over time. And as long as you keep kind of doing that sort of thing, and it's nebulous, you can't put metrics around it. You can't, that's the tough part about that piece of sales that I think a lot of people can miss out on there. So
okay, so I love what you said. So a couple of things that I can piggyback on there. I'm going to talk about the nebulousness, if that's a word, of this concept of giving back to people, building relationships. I would argue it is measurable.
Okay.
plug, I'll be talking about that at the show in May. I'm going to be revealing my whole relationship building strategy, and it does have metrics. I'm actually going to give away a copy of my tracking sheet, and it's very eye-opening when you're like, I love people, I love giving back, and then you get to the end of the month and you look at your metrics, and your metrics are like, do you really, like, Jennifer, do you really love people and love giving back? Because the numbers don't support it, right? I mean, like, listen, I'm not this like coach that's high on the hill and like I've figured it all out. That is not me. I am running my business. I am not perfect. There are fundamentals that I do some months and then I fall off the wagon other months, but I know that this works. So it can be a little bit nebulous, but I'll share at the show how you can track what those KPIs should be. But
that's awesome.
The way this relates to MSPs, so like you were talking about going to shows and giving back and just chatting with people and, you know, not saying move along, you're not a prospect. I was just talking to a private client this morning, and he's getting ready to start a content marketing campaign where he's going to be doing videos and screen shares and walking people through the most common challenges on the cybersecurity side, and how do I turn on 2FA, and how do I select 2FA, and like the million questions that the users have when it comes to security. And I love that because we all know there are people that are going to stalk him and follow all of his content, and they're going to DIY it, and they never would have hired him anyway. And then it's usually the more mature business owners who are like, could I figure out 2FA myself? Probably. Do I have any desire to do that? No. I'm an attorney and I bill $180 an hour or whatever. I'm not spending 3 hours figuring out MFA or 2FA. I'm going to pay someone else to do it for me. And so by him having that content strategy and giving out to the world, and I do believe you give and eventually it comes back to you, maybe not from the exact same person that you just served, but it all works out. And so that's part of the reason that I love content, is that it answers frequently asked questions. And the ones that are never going to hire you, those tire kickers that don't need, they need, but they'll never pay for an MSP, they just go out, attempt to execute on your own. You don't want them as clients anyway. Those are not your target market.
That's absolutely right. And they're going to nickel and dime you and things like that, or pick apart your whole solution and want it piecemeal and things like that. And not ideal.
Not ideal. And it's funny, you know, we were talking about that's a marketing fundamental that it's very easy to lose track of. So for the MSPs watching, you're hearing it from Brian, you're hearing it from me. Don't lose sight of who is your ideal client. And if you're expending funds to go to a trade show or a networking group or a coffee meeting or whatever, make sure that you're fishing in the right pond, because you don't want those the tire kickers, those low hanging fruit type of clients. So
that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you also start to get a reputation that you're willing to just help. Yeah, sure, call me. I'll help you troubleshoot. Like I just watched this happen on social media. One of my friends is local and does IT very much on the side. So he doesn't have any business clients, but somebody tagged him and said, my laptop died and it's got my college, you know, paper on it. I can't get it to come back to life. And I'm afraid if I drain the battery, am I going to lose the paper? Well, he drove over to her house.
Wow.
I don't know what he did. He probably drained the battery, plugged it back in. It was fine, but she's thrilled. So you never know how that's going to come back around.
And you don't know who that person knows when they, you know, that you should meet this person, you know, they helped me out through this problem, whatever. And they're a champion in your corner, so to speak. I've definitely made, you know, my career, there was situations where I would work with people inside of an organization and think that they didn't have an influence on the overall decision. But they did. And not necessarily in the direct way, like a couple of the situations I'm thinking of, but rather they were socially tied to decision makers and my name came up a couple of times, and it turned out in my favor. I don't know that that had anything to really do with it, but it just came back to me that way. And I thought, how crazy is that? I never even knew these two people were friends. And here, so it just makes sense to just try to pay it forward. I don't know. That's a little overused, maybe.
So I literally just wrote in the comments, always pay it forward. So it's so funny because we were like at the very beginning, just be nice,
just be nice
forward. And now we're like, pay it forward. Who knows what the next forward is going to be? We don't know. We'll have to see how this comes. So it's interesting because I think you're right. By being kind to people, by being helpful and not being, the proverbial pushy salesperson, which we'll probably talk about in a minute. You start to get a reputation, and a good reputation. And there's that quote about like, it takes a lifetime to build a good reputation, but it only takes an instant to ruin it, or whatever that wonderful phrase is. And I loved, so I'm getting reviews on Amazon for my book, and somebody commented, and I don't even know if I could tell who it was. It may have just been initials of whoever purchased the book, and said, I've always counted Jennifer Bleam as one of the good ones.
Nice.
That's fantastic. Like I want to be in that column. That's who I am at my core. I'm not one of the bad ones, but it wouldn't take much for me to sully that reputation and to flip columns, flip teams, if you will. And so that's super important for the MSPs to remember, is that you want to be known in your community as a giver, whether it's not for profit or just I'm available, I'm a phone call away, and shifting that into a sales conversation if appropriate. But if not, then it's okay. It's all right. That person may know someone.
Right. You made a friend, and it's a good thing. I've never counted that as a loss in my book. To have someone in your corner who thinks well of you. And look, I've seen it in some of my past history in sales. I grew up in retail way back in the day, and even then, very young, nearsighted, but you could see some of the young salespeople who would say what they needed to make the sale. And that's great. And their numbers look good for a month or two. And they had a lot of returns and things like that. And you have a lot of people who end up with, a bad experience or a bad taste in their mouth overall, when maybe they just weren't the right customer at that time, had they been dealt with honestly, at least. It could have been better later on, I guess.
Well, and it's interesting because a lot of the MSPs that are initially getting into the cybersecurity world wrestle with that. Does my client really need this? Am I selling snake oil? Am I trying to sell ice to an Eskimo? They're wrestling with that same mentality. Am I that 17-year-old kid in the retail store selling something someone doesn't really need? So what would your advice be if you were talking to an MSP, regardless of whether they said, oh, I don't need Unitrends MSP, but if they were just saying, I don't really think my clients need cybersecurity? I'm curious how you would respond.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they don't need cybersecurity and you're an MSP, I mean, that's kind of a tough spot to be in, because it's the business we're in, whether you like it or not. If you're doing any kind of IT work for clients, whether you call yourself a managed service provider or whatever, your clients, however they look, whether they're a one-person operation or you have, several thousand employee companies that you're dealing with as clients, they're looking at you as the responsible party for their cybersecurity needs. So it becomes a risk situation where, now your company is at risk just by way of doing business. Even if the scope of work has nothing to do with cybersecurity, the fundamentals that, your practice, your operations, that matters. And while you might not be providing those other solutions, they're still looking at you as that cybersecurity person, because it has to do with IT, and people in their minds kind of glom the two together. So that said, like you have to automatically assume some risk as an MSP or an IT provider that your clients think of you this way. And so think of it as they should automatically be in your cybersecurity stack. And they need to tell you why they shouldn't be or opt out of it. And
I love it.
yeah, I think it's important. And the sliminess piece of it, it shouldn't go that way at all. This is a consultative sale, right? But your book points out some really important things, right? This is not a sale on ROI or some kind of time savings or efficiency gain per se. You could argue that there's a huge efficiency gain if you don't get hit with ransomware.
Right. Very true. Very true.
So, there's that. But, for people to really understand like the sliminess thing, it really isn't a thing if you're going through it with a consultative approach, right? And you're looking at this as through that lens of risk mitigation, right? And
Yes.
how you're helping solve that problem for your client. And I don't think that's slimy at all. I think
I guess I'd almost argue that it would be slimy not to, right?
Yeah.
If the MSP really understands, which many of them do, some do not. But
Yeah.
if the MSP really understood how it would impact the business and just the angst and the sleepless nights and the days and days and days away from the family and the loss of data, having to rebuild what was lost. And then now we're keeping track manually on legal pads and we've got to put it into it is a complete mess. And so there is risk to the client to not have it, but it is risky to the MSP not to have those things in place, not to have a BCDR, not to have, let's string together a bunch of alphabet soup. Right. It's needed, like it's all needed. And so I had a client walk through an exercise. I walked them through this and they came back the next week and they had prioritized essentially which clients, in some cases, we've sold things to clients and we haven't deployed them. That happens a lot. Let's fix that. Because if they bought something and you haven't gotten around to deploying it and they get hit with something that product or solution could have stopped, huge liability. So as a result of walking them through this exercise, they were able to prioritize operationally where's our greatest level of risk. And then it almost became, then we'll worry about the client's level of risk, but we have to take care of our own house first.
Correct.
Put on your own oxygen mask first and before you help the ones around you, that kind of a thing.
Well, and it's a great point that you make there, because that operational maturity, I know that's language that gets used a lot in this business. I think that's very important for sales. And it doesn't always sound like they go together, but there's a confidence level that you can get from onboarding and things like that if you have a smooth process in place. That's another great point you make in the book about going into sales with a plan. Just like, you should have a plan operationally, right? You should have a plan for incident response. You should have a plan for business continuity. I'm going somewhere with that. Yes. You should have a sales and marketing plan too. And, I've made that mistake before, not having a plan for sales and marketing. And it was a struggle to sell cybersecurity solutions because it was like whack-a-mole, like wherever you could find somebody willing to have that conversation. It's like, well, wait a minute, there's some things that we need to get straight here before we dive into this. Well, and I like that you point that out.
Yeah, I think it's really very normal to have, you're excited about your offer, you've just put 3 months, 6 months, 12 months into figuring out that perfect stack that let's assume it's perfect today. You'll have to redo it in a year because things change, but yes, you're excited about it. And so there is a tendency to be a little bit like Field of Dreams, like if I build it, they will come. And okay, it's March 1st, I've created my stack, I wake up tomorrow morning, it's March 2nd. is my phone going to ring? Where's all my clients?
Where,
Right. And
where are
so,
my clients? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've built it. If I build it, they'll come. Right. And so
Right.
I'm not making fun of that by any stretch. It's so easy
Oh,
to
yeah.
get caught up in the excitement of, we're going to build something that's fantastic and it's going to mitigate risk and it's going to be one of the best in our industry. We're going to price it aggressively because it should be, it's highly valuable. I've invested in sales training. I know how to sell it now. And then I sit back and there's no leads. And so now
Crickets.
yes, you can't be, and there's no cricket in the world that's going to buy your cybersecurity
No.
guarantee. All right. So all right, let's talk about this, because I know you have been on the road a lot and you're going to be on the road a whole lot this year.
Yes.
What are some of the trends that you're hearing either in your conversations with MSPs or maybe that you're hearing from the stage?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's, of course, ransomware is a theme and continues to be a topic of conversation. Of course, with wars and things going on, we've seen a heightened sense of awareness around security, and we continue to have those conversations. And I think that's important to have. But what we have seen, I think, in the last year or so, that's a little bit different, is a massive uptick in cyber liability insurance. And, we're seeing a lot of reasons why claims are going in, they're getting denied. And there's a number of reasons why that's happening. But I think it's a real opportunity for MSPs to treat this as another compliance category, if you will, or another.
Go ahead and finish. I want to clarify. So
Yeah,
another compliance
like almost another type of compliance standard, right? That you need to go by. And if you can treat it that way. And
so are you saying that MSPs are having more and more clients and prospects reaching out to them, asking for liability insurance or asking to help them fill out paperwork? Or can you?
Well, it's all of the above. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's record numbers. It's all of the above. But some are buying it through their umbrella carrier, so to speak, in their business, and they'll buy it from them. And I think this is where this sort of mistake happens, right? The business owner goes, they buy it and they go, yeah, our IT company has that covered. And they hit all the check boxes. And they send it in and they get their insurance policy and they have a nice day until it comes time to file that claim. And
now it's like, well, you lied on the questionnaire, so now we're not going to cover your claim, or who knows
right.
what the challenges are. And I have a colleague that I meet with every week, and he has an MSP, but he also has a storefront with electronics and things of that nature. So he's got his feet in two worlds, retail as well as MSP. They're two different businesses. And the retail store is very rural, like his community, like it's just his little geography. And what is interesting is just to go full circle back to relationships and back to giving to the community. He has done so much of that there is a local bank that when any of their clients are hit with an incident or ransomware or a hack or a breach or whatever, fill in the blank, they will not unlock their electronic banking until his company signs off on it and says, we've wiped it, we've reloaded, we've examined data, they're good, they're clean, go ahead and let them back in electronically. Now, I think they can still bank physically in person. I would imagine their funds are not frozen, but they can't do anything online. And so that's the bank basically endorsing this IT company, which is fantastic. So I said,
absolutely,
how many other local banks are there in your area? And he's like, oh, that's brilliant. Like, yeah, he's going to become the provider for every local bank, because most of the big banks don't do that. They're just like, oh, sorry, you got hacked. You're on your own.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, that's fascinating. Okay, so cyber liability insurance, help me fill out this form. Is anybody doing that as like a lead magnet or a prospecting effort?
Well, that's just it, right? I feel like that might be an untapped opportunity, if you will, for prospecting, for finding new clients. And there's good joint venture partnerships that you could have with local insurance companies. Now, I tried to do this as an MSP. Cyber liability insurance was pretty newer at that time. There wasn't a huge adoption rate yet, but just fumbling my way around, honestly. I didn't have a great deal of success with finding the right partner because I got told that, oh, our carrier does that. Now, I was told that a couple of times, or, oh, the insurance company deals with that.
This was a few years ago. There was no
Yes.
self-attestation survey then.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's a whole different, there's a whole different thing now. And I think that MSPs, and, you know, we talked about giving in the community and things like that, you know, throwing out an idea about just do a workshop for local business owners where maybe you review their cyber liability checklist and make sure that they've hit all the prerequisites, or do it as you know, a second set of eyes on that, because, you know, they may have an IT provider already who attested for them and said everything's good, but maybe it's not. Maybe you do, you know, maybe you do a free network assessment or something like that. It's, you know, you have to wordsmith it a little bit to make it sound more attractive. But I think there's an opportunity there to at least review these questionnaires up front with people. I think it's a great way to just give something, and then you're going to see they're missing some things, right?
Yes.
And that's the opportunity for the MSP to say, oh, you know, oh, you're not using two-factor. Well, your IT company didn't offer that, or, you know, ask some questions.
Force you to adopt it, or I mean, there's ways to get in there without saying anything negative about the competition. I mean, my marketing brain is going a million miles an hour, because I'm like, man, what if you put an ad in your chamber newsletter, a monthly ad that was just something like overwhelmed by your insurance checklist thingy, whatever it's called. I know it has a name, can't think of it right now. We'll help. Call for your free, you know, 1 hour, whatever. We'll help you go through it and ask questions so that you can fill it out and you know, honestly fill that solution out. And again, giving back to the community, uncovering needs, being the expert advisor. And you can't tell me that if you put that in your chamber newsletter for a year that you wouldn't get business out of it. There's just no way. It's a huge need right now. And who else are they going to call?
Exactly. And, you know, I know the insurance carriers, like, this isn't their field per se. So they're going to rely on third party, you know, expertise of some kind to do it. And I think it's important to kind of be on that side of that business owner who doesn't really know what they have or whatever, or, you know, here's a great opportunity for, you know, the nephew that they hired to be the IT director. Yeah, that's, you know, a great place for you to come in alongside of them, and even do it as like a co-managed, a security co-managed thing. I mean, there's opportunities there as well. So you have to be creative sometimes. I think that's what drives a lot of business development, is that getting that creativity around how can I be of value to the business community that I serve, and does that lead them back to, you know, me in some lighter way where it's not like a hard pressed sales pitch the whole time.
Right. And if you had a headline like worried about filling out that 7-page insurance questionnaire about cybersecurity, if you're like, we are the cybersecurity experts, call us for our free, whatever, name it something. Just that subtle, we are the cybersecurity experts. We are the cybersecurity experts. We are the, people are going to see that. And then they're going to click on a link. Maybe it has nothing to do with filling out the insurance questionnaire, but it's a scare, or it's my aunt got hit with ransomware. Now I'm worried about my business. Who am I going to call for cybersecurity? Oh, I've seen Brian's company every month inside of the chamber newsletter or in my inbox or what have you. So
Right.
I think it's a fantastic collaboration opportunity, lead magnet. I think we're on to something. I kind of wish I had my own MSP to test it.
Right. Well, it's interesting too. So I was at an education event last week, kind of covering for our direct side in that space. And there was a couple of MSPs there selling to schools, both a fully managed and a co-managed offering I saw, which was interesting. But I had the opportunity to talk to IT directors in school districts. And it's been a while, because I've been in the MSP space for so long. That sometimes you don't get the opportunities to talk to people who are in different fields, but this topic came up about cyber liability insurance, and I didn't even know if school districts were doing this, if it was a requirement or what. I had no idea where the conversation was going to go, but I stepped in it, and it was great. It was good to learn from folks who have been doing this for a while. And so two people that I spoke with, IT directors for their school district, they had signed up for cyber liability insurance some years ago, and the board thought it was a good idea, yada, yada, yada. They've had it now for some time, and now it's renewal time. And now you kind of made this point earlier about back then they didn't have self-attestation. Now they do. And there's some gray areas where it's like, are you using 2FA? Well, yeah, on everything.
I know. Yeah, right,
Like,
right. I mean, and I mean, just transparently, we are wrestling with that internally
yes,
because I have remote team members, and every tool doesn't offer. I'm like
correct.
mind blown. Like, what do you mean? Let's do a screen share, because there's tools that my team uses that I don't like. It's got to be there, and then it's not. Like, it
Right.
just isn't there, and so we have it on our password, our password management tool and all of those things. Like,
Yeah.
we're backing that up as much as we can, but so it is a concern for school districts, which
Yeah.
is interesting to me.
It's very, it was a cool conversation because I had no idea where they were with this, if it was widespread, policy usage there or what. But yeah, very interesting to see. In schools, like the way they talk about ransomware was pretty interesting too. Like, I mean, it was very much IT director driven, and so some of the conversations, like, yeah, we had a bunch of computers in the lab get whacked with ransom. Like, it's like, whoa, it was just
Get
like,
whacked.
yeah, it was just very. I mean, not. I don't want to play like they, it was nothing to them. It was very serious, but it was like, there's challenges there that they deal with. I think that parallel what MSPs hear from their clients, most of it having to do with budget, right? Like, oh, that sounds great, but we don't have the budget to put that in place.
Right.
And
Okay, so
so,
we got our third forward. So we
yeah,
were like, give forward, pay it forward, and then I said step forward into difficult conversations, because
there you go.
you never would have gotten those aha moments if you hadn't said, all right, I'm
I
just
love
going to
it.
ask the hard questions. So
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And I mean, and I talk about this in my sales training and in my book, is to really stay in control of that sales conversation, and
Right.
don't be afraid to ask hard questions. If you're prospecting and someone says, I'm not interested, there's 20 different ways you can overcome that, but
Oh
you have
yeah.
to step into that discomfort. And it's easier to just go, okay, thank you, goodbye, and hang
Yeah.
up. Like, I get that. It's easy to shrink. It's easy to take it personally. And what I encourage my clients, don't take it personally. Step out, step
Right.
forward into those difficult conversations. So I love it.
It,
Okay,
yes.
let's circle around to Unitrends MSP, because
Okay.
I know you've got something either coming or here that
Yeah.
I want to hear about.
Okay, so we launched the Ion product and the Ion Plus product last month. And so I always like to say we're the best kept secret in backup for MSPs, because we've been doing backup for 30 years at Unitrends, and our MSP program is like 5 years old. So that's, why a lot of MSPs don't necessarily know of us, or they think that we're enterprise focused only. No, we have an awesome channel program. And I would say that the Ion launch is very much geared towards MSPs, right? MSPs are working with those clients that are the S of the SMB space, right? And not everyone has the space or the need for a full rack mount backup appliance in their environment, right? So they might not have the physical space, they might not have the budget, like we just talked about.
Right.
So we came up with the Ion, and this is a smaller appliance. I'm making roughly right the size, but it's a smaller, yeah, it's a smaller device. It has a couple of solid state drives in it to keep the heat and the power consumption down. And the biggest difference there is that it doesn't virtualize on the box, which is what you get with a full appliance. You get that full virtualization aspect. And that has a lot of great benefits to it, but some of those clients don't need it. Like your local dentist doesn't necessarily need to spin up, his line of business application in the office there. So, but you do need a place to store those backup images. You need to be able to test them, and you need to be able to replicate that to the cloud. And one of the things that we do that's unique in this particular space is encryption, not only on box, but in transit. And I know there's other solutions out there that are really nice and they work well and they're very similar, but they don't do that. And they don't provide the level of testing that we provide. So when you're an MSP and you really need to rely on your backups working, right? You need to be able to tell your client, hey, the last backup we took, it will work. We can virtualize it both here locally or in the cloud. Of course, in the case of the Ion, you can't do that, but in the cloud, you can, regardless of the solution with us. And it's a very nice and easy experience for the MSP in what could be their worst day. If you think about those scenarios, right? Client calls and says, we just got hit with ransomware. Client calls and says, we just got flooded, or a fire or something like that. Or, Susie from accounting spilled her coffee on the server or something. I don't know, whatever.
And that's what I was going to ask. Is this designed to back up the server, or is this backing up desktops? What's a typical
so this is for servers, primarily your physical servers, even virtual environments as well. Although we provide a virtual appliance for those situations a lot of time. Those hypervisor environments that are on-prem. And then, of course, we can spin up our virtual appliance in Azure, AWS. It's a very versatile solution. But the price point of the Ion is much more attractive to the small business owner. And this is something where, like, maybe you did an account review or quarterly business review with a client and said, look, we're just doing these file level backups and we really need to elevate the type of backup so that we can get you back up and running quicker. A lot of times there's pushback on the price tag of that. And I experienced that as an MSP for sure.
Yes.
So this is something that fits in a little bit lower budget area, still allows the MSP to make some good margin on it. And provide a solution that they know is rock solid, will work, it's tested, and they can show the client, hey, look, we're testing your backups and making sure that they can run. And that's something, again, going back to this cyber liability insurance, backups need to be tested.
Yes.
And most MSPs either don't have the time to do it, or they're doing it very sporadically, or they're spending a fortune having their engineers do it for them.
All right. So as we were talking, I was typing notes. So you'll have to go back after the live and see how I did. Hopefully I'll get at least a B- or a B+. I did not put anything in there about backups being tested. So you can add that.
Yeah, I'll add that.
Yeah. Also add your contact info in the chat, but share it with me now, just for those that are watching live. And if they want information on Unitrends MSP or the new Ion device, best way to reach you.
You can email me at bdoty@unitrends.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm going to screw up the LinkedIn thing here. So let me pull it up real
I was going to
quick.
say, I should have that handy. I'll see if I can pull that.
It's loading.
Awesome. Oh, it's like a race. We got to see who's going to get there first.
It's linkedin.com/in/Brian Doty.
Perfect. Got it.
Not too difficult,
Not
but
too
we'll
bad.
put a link in there for it.
I did copy and paste it though. I totally cheated. So
I love it.
I love it. All right. It popped up. Life is good. I cannot tell you thank you enough. I love these conversations. I love hearing, what you're hearing on the road. I know there's still some people that are not able to travel. And so for them to be able to hear, a little bit of the brain trust that you're gaining from being out on the road. And we'll have to do this again soon because you're going to be on the road a whole lot. So there's going to be a lot of brain trust going on. So
I am. Absolutely.
Yes. All right. So we'll do this again in a few months, and then I will see you at my show in May. If you don't have your ticket, get your ticket. mspsalesrevolution.com/ultimate is the ultimate IT growth conference. Such great content and topics and guests. Super excited. And Brian, are you coming, or is it still up in the air?
It's still up in the air. So it's literally the same day as our fourth baby is due. So.
Right. That's right. Okay. So you are not, it is not up in the air at all. I'm telling you, it's not up in the air. I'm sure someone else in your life has already told you that as well. No worries, no worries. Super excited for you. Number 4. That's exciting. Fun.
It is exciting
stuff. Then we'll just chat and we'll bring you back on as soon as we can.
I may have Amelia go in my place because I really wanted to go. Now, we also may have the baby early and I'll miss a bunch of other things and I'll be able to come to yours. And that would be a cool scenario, right?
That would be very fun. I'd love to have you there, but obviously family first, always. So
that's right.
If it isn't, then I know we'll see you on the road. There's so many events coming up between now and then.
Absolutely.
I'm sure I will see you live. Awesome. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Always a pleasure. Enjoyed it.
Take care.